Hello again classy people, this is Josh the Top Hat Gamer, and this week I'm reviewing WWE 2K16. Wrestling games certainly don't have the most consistent track record, and last year's release of WWE 2K15 certainly didn't help matters. So with a lot of negative feedback and a year to make changes, how does WWE 2K16 fare? Surprisingly well, as it turns out. While still not the fast-paced arcade game that veteran fans of the genre wanted, WWE 2K16 is a far cry from last year's feature-deprived outing. Though there's no traditional story mode on offer, there are a few different options as far as telling a narrative goes. If you're a fan of self-inserting yourself into these games and want to follow your own career from your start in the developmental NXT brand to your eventual induction into the Hall of Fame, then My Career Mode will let you do just that. You'll play through your own rivalries and work your way up the ranks, winning and losing belts, all while trying to put on the best performance possible by achieving a solid match rating every show. You can do this by reversing attacks, using a variety of moves, and by narrowly escaping pinfalls. It's not about winning and losing necessarily, it's about putting on a good show. Of course, if you have a wider view in mind and want to take control of all the shows and wrestlers the WWE has to offer, then Universe Mode returns, allowing you to mold the company and its shows in your own vision. Both of these modes feel far more natural than ever before. Part of why these feel so natural is that both of these modes rely on various superstars' personalities, and while the concept of being a heel or a face was present during last year's showing, it wasn't nearly as in-depth as 2K16 systems are. In My Career Mode, your personality is dictated through backstage interviews in which you choose how to answer certain questions. In Universe Mode, however, personalities appear to be dictated by your in-ring actions, which just blows my mind. Not much of this is explained in the game though, and whether this in-ring evolution applies to your My Career character as well is unclear. Because of this, I'm not sure if my wrestler has turned heel because of something I did, or if it's a bug, and figuring out how to make a face turn is next to impossible. At the very least, all of these systems appear to work fine in Universe Mode, and both modes feel less archaic, if a bit more unpredictable. For those who are looking to be told a story, then Showcase Mode has what you seek. Past games have used Showcase Mode to allow players to experience historic matches and task them with recreating different spots from them. And as usual, this mode is a fun look back at the WWE's history. Unfortunately, it doesn't have the same size or scope as previous games. Where 2K14 let you play through the history of WrestleManias, and 2K15 made you play through various feuds, this year's outing follows the story of the Texas Rattlesnake himself, Stone Cold Steve Austin. Starting at the birth of Austin 316 at King of the Ring and ending at Stone Cold vs. The Rock at WrestleMania 19, the story of Austin is interesting, but the mode is made less appealing by the fact that you can only control Austin in these matches. Though I appreciate the inclusion of some of Austin's WCW matches, as well as one ECW match, the repetitive nature of having to play as Austin over and over again burnt me out on the mode pretty quickly. Luckily, there are plenty more WWE superstars and divas to play as in the game's core exhibition modes, with over 120 playable wrestlers that span the Attitude Era to now, with a few stretching even further back. For the most part, the roster looks fantastic, with many of the superstars and divas looking about as true to life as you can get. All you need to do is watch Triple H's or John Cena's entrances to see WWE 2K16's visuals at their best. Not everyone has gotten off so lucky, however, as older performers or wrestlers who couldn't be scanned in on account of being deceased tend to not look quite as accurate. For one, Macho Man Randy Savage kinda looks like a Potato Man. And I'm not sure exactly what happened to backstage interviewer Renee Young either. That's just sad. Fortunately, the game's presentation as a whole is generally far more impressive than it's ever been before, despite some inconsistent character models. The near seamless entrance sequences before each match, on top of the addition of JBL as a third commentator, make the game feel more true to the televised shows, and there are a bunch of little touches that didn't need to be included, but are very much appreciated. Things like certain wrestlers actually yelling when they taunt, or commentary that calls back to remarks made earlier in every match are just a couple of examples of this. It's enough to make me almost overlook things like the commentary team talking about performers who aren't taking part in the match at hand. The game's audio is mostly stellar, despite a few odd occurrences like the commentary glitches. Entrance themes are mostly spot on, and it's surprising and truly exciting to hear things like The Undertaker's Limp Bizkit music again. And although the game's licensed soundtrack is a little bit lacking, being able to put these entrance themes into the playlist is certainly a step up from 2K15's effort. The Showcase mode proves how much effort has been put into this game, not only by having legendary commentator Jim Ross on hand to call the matches of Steve Austin's history, but by having ECW commentator Joey Styles in to call literally a single match. It's the little things that make this game feel special. Speaking of showcase mode, it bears mentioning that a lot of the in-engine cutscenes are almost accurate to a fault. By using audio from the events they recreate, the rise of Stone Cold Steve Austin sounds authentic, but it's incredibly jarring whenever the F in WWF is cut out. Otherwise, these scenes work in tandem with the expertly crafted video packages to turn the story of Stone Cold into something that is worth playing despite the repetition.
What? You better stop that! What?
Now, as far as gameplay goes, WWE 2K16 takes some steps in the right direction with a number of different features and tweaks. While 2K15 felt sluggish and unresponsive, 2K16 has upped the speed ever so slightly, while making inputs feel surprisingly more snappy. It's still not even close to its N64 brethren in terms of speed, but the action feels far more hard-hitting and true to life. This is in no small part thanks to a slew of new animations not only with regards to attacks but reversals and pin attempts as well. The game mechanics have been altered far more than I would have expected as well. Pin attempts, for instance, are less reactive than the old system, tasking you with stopping a moving bar instead of moving the bar yourself. As a result, escaping from pins feels less frustrating than ever, and new features such as active rope breaks and dirty pins keep the process interesting. Submissions, on the other hand, haven't so much taken a step forward as they have sideways. Mashing buttons has never been the most elegant solution, but this year's approach is kind of obtuse to learn, and even when you know what you're doing, making someone submit can be needlessly tough, especially if you're facing an AI opponent. It involves chasing a defender's bar around a circular interface and covering it long enough with space in the center to fill, and while I appreciate the thought process behind it, I feel like giving players a choice between this system and the game's old system might have been the best solution. Other new additions to the gameplay are a bit less integral, but are still nice touches. For instance, working holds are available for you to implement when you need to regain stamina or drain it from your opponents. Additionally, chain wrestling holds at the beginning of most matches return, but with new ways to transition out of them, like actually moving the hold towards the ropes to send your opponent running. Oh, and you can attack someone during their entrance, so that's great too. Possibly the biggest change to the formula for WWE 2K16 is the new reversal system. Prior games in the series would become endless strings of reversals into reversals and would make playing against AI opponents nearly trivial. This time, reversals are limited, and are presented to you as a recharging meter, meaning you won't be able to daisy chain counterattacks endlessly. It also forces you to strategize a bit when facing any opponent. Often I'd find myself trying to lure my opponent into burning the meter in order to safely perform finishing moves. Before I move on, I thought I should mention that some moves do have two stages where they can be reversed, but I have never been able to reverse at the second, more pivotal stage, though I suspect it gets easier once you familiarize yourself with the particular animations. At its core, the game is fairly easy to pick up and play, although utilizing the full range of every character's grapples and strikes is never explicitly explained. The only reason I found out how to use the wider arsenal of moves was by going into the moveset editor and paying close attention to the inputs. Helpful hint, holding down inputs often yields different results. This might not seem like a huge issue, but when you're playing My Career and lose points on your match rating for repeating moves, you'll wish you knew how to perform more attacks. My main gripe with the gameplay, aside from the iffy submission system and poor moveset conveyance, is with the odd balancing with regards to finishes. These moves are the big, late match game changers that are supposed to finish enemies off, but I found myself having to pull more than one of these out of the bag despite my opponents being thoroughly damaged on multiple occasions. Even after using the game's helpful balancing tools, finishes don't feel half as powerful as they should. If you're one of those people who are drawn to wrestling games by the gameplay and stay for the creation tools, you're in luck. While last year's showing may have disappointed pretty much everyone by axing all but the most basic of tools, 2K16's Creation Suite is back in full force. You can create shows, arenas, title belts, and divas, as well as the superstars, movesets, and entrances that were available last year. The basic character creation tools are far more impressive than they were last time as well, with full facial deformation and asymmetrical scaling available. You know, in case you want to make something really unique. And if you aren't much of a creator, then the Community Creations option will surely have something to interest you. This game is not without its problems. A few commentary glitches here and there, some oddly inconsistent visuals, and some less than ideal gameplay choices keep WWE 2K16 from being a masterpiece, but the content on offer is solid at the very least, and damn fun if I do say so myself. This year's offering is a huge step in the right direction from last year, and if you're after a well-made virtual representation of what you see on the TV shows, then that's what you'll get here. WWE 2K16 gets the Top Hat Gamer rating of good. It may not be perfect, but this year's entry in the wrestling series is still a lot of fun, with a huge roster to choose from and a creation suite that has been expanded far more than the average offerings on the table last year. Wrestling fans or fans of wrestling games should find something to enjoy here. Thanks for watching. I hope you found the review informative. If you missed last week's review on Assassin's Creed Syndicate, click the annotation. Now if you excuse me, I've got a can of whoop-ass to open.